what we're going to dive into today is I'm sure Blake shared with some of you, we're going to be launching an 8-week challenge for the team. And my goal behind all of this is to help you guys build some momentum, consistency, and get dialed in so we can carry that momentum through the rest of 2026 and get everyone dialed in and obviously pushing towards their fitness goals. I can see the room in there. Raise of hands. Does anybody have a 2026 fitness goal on the horizon? Look at that. We got some hands up. All right, I'll take it. All right, guys. Let's dive into this. First things first, this is not going to be a motivational talk. This isn't me trying to convince you guys to do anything. And it's definitely not going to be about extreme diets, training 6 days a week, or any high intensity crazy thing. My goal behind all of this is going to be very simple: to have you guys clearly understand what actually drives results, what to focus on daily, what to stop overcomplicating, and then exactly how to execute this over the next 8 weeks. If you guys actually follow what I lay out consistently, you will feel, perform, and look different by the end of this challenge. I guarantee it. Okay. So first things first, who am I? Why am I even talking about this in the first place? So I am Blake's fitness coach. A little bit about me. My name is Carter Montgomery. I'm a retired pro bodybuilder. I've been in the fitness industry for over 15 years. I am a metabolic health and performance specialist, and I've spent the last decade in the peptide and health optimization space. Okay. Here is some of the clients that we've had over the past couple months. So again, what we do, we basically can predict results as long as people actually follow what we lay out for them. Okay. So what I want to do first is all right. So what I want to do first, guys, is start with a little bit of a mindset piece. All right. Because this is where most people go wrong. The biggest mistake I see in fitness and nutrition overall is people trying to do too much too fast. Okay. Or they change things too frequently. What they end up doing is they overhaul everything: new diet, new workout plan, new schedule, new rules. And this changes too frequently. Or again, they do too much too quickly. What ends up happening is they burn out, not because they're weak, but because the plan was never sustainable. Systems are what create change in this game. The more we can have this fit harmoniously with your life, the longer you're going to sustain it, which means the more progress is going to be driven. Okay. So if we work our way down, let's talk about the truth behind fitness. Social media is how I market my business. However, social media has given people the ability to put any information out there, which has confused a lot of people and make people think fitness and nutrition is complicated. It's really not. It's pretty simple. There's not a perfect diet or meal plan. The best plan is always going to be the one that you can stick to for the longest period of time possible. That is the game. When it comes to exercise, when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to anything in the fitness space, whatever you can commit to for the longest amount of time possible is what is going to be best. The body doesn't respond to these crazy intensity spikes. It responds to repeated daily habits. This is why we want to focus on mastering the basics, because that's always going to produce the most drastic and sustainable results. Now, it's not sexy, it's not flashy, but it works every single time. I want you guys to start thinking about the non-negotiables, meaning what are the things that I execute every single day that's going to move the needle closer to my goal, rather than just trying to do too much too quickly. When we do too much too quickly, there is no sustainability there. And everyone stays in this vicious cycle where they'll yield a little bit of progress. It's too intense, so they can't sustain it. They fall off, rebound, gain all that weight right back, and then they stay in this vicious cycle. And that is the most frustrating place for people to be, because you don't know how to pull yourself out of it. What we want to do is we want to start identifying the non-negotiable actions that are going to move us closer each day. Very simple things like tracking our food, hitting a step goal, training consistently, drinking enough water. Now, there's other things we can layer into this as we continue to progress, but this is the foundation of it all. Those 4 non-negotiable items. And if you do that every single day, one, it's going to be manageable because you guys can go focus on work, handling clients, doing all of that. But at the same time, these are the things that are actually going to move us closer to the goal each day. All right. And so remember, if we master the day, the weeks will take care of themselves. And if the weeks are solid, the months take care of themselves. Everything compounds on top of each other. So again, we just have to make sure we're zooming in, winning the day. And if you do that, everything is going to fall into place. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about confidence and work performance. So my clientele are pretty much all business owners, and I have seen a direct correlation between people getting confident in their body and achieving some fitness goals and just, again, being confident in their own skin and then making more money. 100% of the time, it always works. And the reason is because they have that confidence that they can carry into work. All right. And so most people, or I'm sure most of you guys, are going to be client facing. Okay. And whether we like it or not, presentation matters. Okay. So it's not just about vanity, it's about presence. When someone can visually see you prioritize your health, you're going to stand differently, you're going to speak differently, you carry yourself with confidence, you handle stress better. And you will close more deals. I promise you that because I have seen this happen over 15 years. There's a direct correlation between it. And people can immediately tell if you have a work ethic, if you're committed, and those are two crucial traits in any person, especially someone we want to do business with. And your clients will always feel that. Okay. So now we're going to get into the tactical side of things and what you can actually do to implement and understand the foundation of this all. So, nutrition is the foundation, and you guys have to understand physical results are 80 to 90% nutrition driven, guaranteed. It doesn't matter how crazy your training is, how advanced it is, how awesome your programming is. If the nutrition piece isn't locked in, the progress isn't going to come. So let's break this down a little bit. Calories are energy. If you consistently eat more calories than your body burns, you gain weight. And if you consistently eat less calories than your body burns, you lose weight. Calories in versus calories out. That's it. It's literally that simple. So this is why consistency matters rather than just being perfect every single day. If we can control that caloric intake each day, we won't stay in these vicious cycles of having big weight fluctuations, having weight fall off, having it come back again. We can really maintain the consistency and stay in that flow. Now, let's talk about macros a little bit. Now, I put this disclaimer in here because a lot of people have fell for the keto trap, and it works for some people. And I always tell people keto works the first time you do it. Typically, it doesn't work after that. But the reason this happens is because anytime we remove an entire sustainability goes out the window. This is what I always tell people when they're big keto heads. I'm glad that worked for you, but let's be realistic. Are you never going to eat a carb again? No. Sustainability goes out the window. Now, on the other side of that, if we're removing an entire macronutrient group, deficiencies, cravings, and burnout is going to slow up. And so balance is what keeps this sustainable. So for those who don't know, macros are going to be the type of calories you eat. They get broken into three categories: your protein, your carbs, and your fats. Each one of these is going to play a specific role. When it comes to the protein is going to preserve muscle, help recovery, and obviously keep you full. Carbs are going to be your body's first primary energy source. So that's what's going to fuel your workouts, support your daily energy, and obviously improve training performance because we'll have more energy for that training session. Then our fats are what's going to support hormones and immune function, also supports brain function, and it's also going to help keep you full. Okay, so you can see here, if we were to remove an entire bucket of one of these out, well, then now we're going to miss all these components that macronutrients provides. Okay, so this is why it's super crucial. And I always say it's not about the best diet or keto this or low carb that. It's about making sure we have a balanced approach that you can stick to for the longest amount of time possible. Because when we have a balanced approach, we can ultimately incorporate pretty much anything we want. And I'll break that down a little more for you. So why restriction fails, we talked about this a little bit already, is most people think progress means cutting everything out, getting super restrict. It's January 1st, I need to go remove everything out of the house, dial it in, and completely restrict myself. That never lasts because we're always going to have the cravings. We're humans. We're going to have birthdays, date nights, anniversaries. We want to be able to go enjoy those things. So instead, I focus on guidelines. I never play the game of complete restriction. I simply play the game of guidelines, meaning you can eat the foods you enjoy as long as they fit within your calorie and macro targets. So what that means is if I have pizza that comes up today and I want to have some pizza, if I have enough room in my macros to get the pizza in, I can have the pizza. I mean, I probably can't have an entire pizza, but I gotta have 1 to 2 slices and be able to incorporate that. We're able to start setting these guidelines with things where you can enjoy some of the foods you want to eat, but we just set the guidelines. Now, this is also giving you the ability to control this reward mechanism with your body. What I tell people is this: we live in a world now where you can get anything at the snap of a finger. Any food, any kind of stimulation, anything is at the snap of our fingers, which means we've been trained that when we're hungry, we just immediately go eat. If there's something I enjoy in front of me, we immediately go eat it, right? We have to change that game because what that leads to is the very unhealthy relationship with food that we see all over the US right now. So when we set these guidelines, it allows us to control ourselves a little bit more and say, okay, cool, yes, I can have this, but I can only have this much. Or I already hit my macros for the day. My calories are tapped out. I can't have the pizza today. Maybe I can have it later in the week. So when we start reframing this mindset around food and understand it's not a game of restriction, it's a game of guidelines. And if it fits within the guidelines, we can have it. If it doesn't, we don't. That is the key to sustainability. And that structure right there is what ultimately creates the freedom for people. Tracking, tracking, tracking. So when it comes down to food tracking, this is all about awareness, okay? It's not about obsession. This is about awareness. And I always use the bank account analogy. If you don't know what's coming in or going out, you're ultimately guessing. And when we have data, we have more control. And when nutrition is tracked consistently, progress will always become predictable. Just like I was talking about on that last slide. If you guys want that slice of pizza and it can fit within your macros, well, then incorporate it, have it. You're good. You're set up for success. We have control because we have the data. If we don't have the data, we're just going to be playing that guessing game. That's why we track. You guys can use, there's MyFitnessPal, there's Calorie Counter. You guys are going to all have access to my app next week, so you'll be able to track inside there as well. We want to make sure we're using something to track your daily intake. This is going to be key. I'll be sending you guys a full training on how to do that as well for anyone that's new to it. Let's get into tactical stuff. These are going to be the guidelines that I'm talking about with you. Simple macro guidelines is here's how I want you guys to think about. The meal is going to be anchored with protein, which means I don't ever consume a meal unless it has some protein in it. Even if I'm going out to lunch and there's a pasta meal that I want and it fits within my macros, I'm going to have it. I'm going to incorporate it, but I'm also going to make sure there's protein with that meal. We want to make sure every meal we consume, we're going to anchor it with protein. That is focus number one. Number two, we want to build our meals around whole foods. Don't leverage all the protein snacks. Don't leverage all the protein bars and things like that. Try to stick to the whole foods. One, it's going to be better calorie wise. But then two, it's going to keep you fuller. More food and more volume we can consume, which means we don't have all these crazy cravings all day. If you eat some of those protein chips, they're good as snacks and able to incorporate here and there. But if we're heavily reliant on all of those, you're going to have so much food noise, so much cravings that it's going to be near impossible to control because we're not consuming calorically dense food. It's filler food. Next thing we want to focus on is going to be keeping carbs and fats balanced. I'm going to break that down for you in this upcoming slide. And then we want to track daily. This is not about perfection. This is about honesty and consistency, which means even if you have a day that you eat off plan or you eat something that doesn't fit within your numbers, you still need to track that stuff. We still need to have the data behind all of this because this is what allows us to see the trends, review what was wrong and that for the next time, and have all that data to keep having the awareness. All right. This is going to remove all the guesswork and all the stress because we have the data. Remember, calories are going to determine fat loss. Protein is the priority, fats support health, and then carbs fuel performance. That's simple. Now, I'm going to give you some sauce here. This is how you're going to calculate your intake. So before we dive into this, here's how macros make up calories. So protein, 1 gram of protein equals 4 calories. Carbs is the same. 1 gram of carbs equals 4 calories. And then for fats, 1 gram of fat equals 9 calories. So you can see dietary fats have more calories in them versus carbs and protein. So that's how those make up calories. So let's break this down. Step number one is going to be calculating your calories. So for everyone, I want you to take your goal body weight and you're going to times that by 10. And that's going to be your daily calories for fat loss. For example, 180-pound person, that's 1,800 calories per day. Next thing we want to focus on is going to be setting your protein goal. And we want to aim for 0.8 to 1 gram per pound of goal body weight. If that goal weight is 170 pounds, protein should be between 150 and 170 per day. For my ladies, you should be at that 0.8 marker, which means you'd be at that 150. For my guys, you're going to be at that 1 gram per pound of goal body weight, which means you're going to be at that 170 marker. Ladies, go a little bit lower with it. My guys, crank that up. Then what we're going to do is we're going to set our fats, which ultimately should be about 20 to 30% of our total calories. I always recommend going closer to the 20% marker if we really want to yield some faster progress. Reason being is your body is going to store dietary fats much easier than it will with carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are the body's first energy source, which means anytime the body needs energy for activity, training, whatever it is, that's what it taps into first is going to be carbohydrates. Once all the carbohydrates are done out of the system, all that's depleted, then the stored body fat. Why I say go closer to that 20% marker is because I can push more of my calories towards carbs. Body's going to use that faster and I won't store as much of those dietary fats. Lean closer to that 20% marker. And then what we do is we fill the rest in with carbs. Quick breakdown for you. If I have a 180-pound goal weight, I'm going to have 180 grams of protein, which is 720 calories, because I took this and multiplied it by 4. For our fats, 40 grams of fat, I multiply by 9, that gets me 360. That was 20% of my calories went to fats. The remaining calories I had was 720 calories because I took my 1,800, subtracted this, and I was left with 720. So all I do is take that 720, divide that by 4, and that gives me 180 grams of carbs. So now my macros for my 1,800 calories is 180 on the protein, 40 on the fats, 180 on the carbs. That's simple. Take goal body weight, multiply it by 10. For my ladies, it's going to be the protein per pound of body weight. For men, 1 gram. You're going to set your fats, which should be about 20% of those total calories. So again, 1,800 calories, 20% of that is 360. And then we're going to fill the rest in with carbs. So whatever's left over, we just fill that in with carbs. Now, when it comes to training and movement, training matters, but this part does not have to be that complicated. Here is the target I want everyone shooting for. We're going to aim for 4 to 5 workouts per week, minimum of 3 resistance training sessions, which means weight training sessions, 3 of those. The other 1 to 2 sessions can be anything you enjoy. If you're someone who likes to go to a spin class, that's when you should do it. If you like yoga, do that. If you have a sport you like to do, everyone's into pickleball now. Maybe you like to play pickleball. That's where you incorporate it. Minimum of 3 resistance training sessions, and then the other 2 can be something you enjoy. Again, just anything, the more input we do, the better output we're going to get. If we make 5 resistance training sessions, there's obviously going to be more benefit in that as well. Focus here is sustainability and something that we can maintain for the course of the full year. Now, resistance training is going to be important because it's going to preserve muscle tissue and grow muscle tissue. Improve metabolism because your caloric expenditure will go up. Little side note on this one, a lot of people say, hey, I went and did a spin class and I burned 500 calories. Fantastic. I'm glad you burned 500 calories in that 1 hour, but now your body is not going to burn as much energy throughout the rest of the day. Resistance training, on the other hand, you may go train for an hour, only burn 300 calories, but then body goes into repair mode and you end up expending more energy or burning more calories throughout the rest of the day. So this is why when it comes to metabolic efficiency, weight training is always going to be superior. And then last is going to support long-term health. The reason I say that is because as we get older, the most important thing we can do to keep our body healthy is going to be have more muscle tissue. 1, it's going to protect us from getting injured later on. But then 2, the more muscle we have on our body, the higher your metabolic rate is, which means you're just burning more energy at rest. The higher that metabolic rate is, the more metabolically efficient your body actually is. Okay. Now, a reminder, just like with nutrition, the best workout will always be the one that you actually do consistently. So this is why I said, if you guys have something you enjoy doing, a spin class, yoga, whatever, incorporate that. Keep that in the mix because whatever we enjoy the most, that's what we're going to be most consistent with. Okay. Now, steps. This is one of the big fat loss drivers that a lot of people miss. They're honestly probably one of the biggest drivers in terms of controlling daily energy expenditure, which is how many calories we burn. Okay. I talked about in session example, I may burn 500 calories in that cardio session, but then what am I doing throughout the rest of the day? The reason I love utilizing steps is it allows us to keep that caloric expenditure up and burn more calories without having to spend more time in the gym. And for those of you who have a Whoop band and Apple Watch, anything that tracks steps, you can actually see how quickly these steps start to add up as we go throughout our day. So here's how I want you guys to set up your step goal. So if you have a wearable, you're going to look at your average daily steps over the last month. Whatever that number is, increase it by 2,000. That's where you're going to start off. Okay. Then what we want to do is we want to increase this as the body adapts, which means basically every other week, every 2 weeks, you guys should be increasing those steps by about 500. Okay. Because what this is going to do is your body's eventually going to adapt to, say, your 10,000 step goal, which means we're just not going to be burning as much energy as we need to. So what we want to do is about every other week, increase that by 500. Now the body has to work a little bit harder. And that is how we keep that overall daily expenditure moving in the right direction. Remember, water is crucial for every bodily function we have. So we have to have a sufficient amount, not just for progress, but for overall health. But drinking water just doesn't mean you're hydrated, okay? Often, if we don't have enough electrolytes, it's ultimately does more damage than good. So hydration is going to affect energy, digestion, hunger cues. So for those of you who get hungry, some water, I promise you, is going to subside that hunger a little bit, and also helps with performance. Water is going to play a key component into overall energy levels each day, so we want to make sure we have a sufficient amount of water. Now, guidelines. Anyone who is under 150 pounds, about 100 ounces a day is sufficient. If you're over 150 pounds, you should be aiming for a full gallon per day. And anyone who is a super heavy sweater, add 1 to 2 liters to whatever you were at, right? So if you're that 150-pound guy and you're over 150 pounds, you're drinking that gallon a day, and you're a heavy sweater, add 1 to 2 liters to that. Now, this is the crucial component. Drinking water alone doesn't guarantee hydration. Your electrolytes are what allows your body to actually absorb and utilize those fluids. So you guys can find those electrolyte packets. There's the Element ones, the Liquid IV. There's a ton of them, right? The Liquid IVs from Costco, I think, are like the best deal. We want to do one of those first thing in the morning, right when we wake up. Okay. These electrolytes do not get replenished. There is no food that's going to have a sufficient amount of electrolytes in it. All of these essential minerals we cannot get really from anywhere unless we supplement with them. So we want to make sure every morning when you wake up, we do one of those electrolyte packets and then we go and we start our water goal and we hit that throughout the day. I promise you that one change alone is going to change your energy levels drastically just by doing that piece. So again, make sure we want to drink the water, but we also want to make sure we have the electrolytes in the mix. Okay. Now, when it comes to supplements, remember macronutrients is going to be our food. Micronutrients is the foundation behind all the body. That's the micronutrients that the body actually needs for its bodily functions. Now, supplements are a little bit more of a complex one because typically what I do is I use blood work as a guide to see what we need to supplement with. However, there are 5 foundational supplements that every single human is going to be deficient in, and we can't source it from food. First one's going to be a vitamin D3 plus K2. Vitamin D, I'm sure everyone's heard of vitamin D, but vitamin D is crucial for every bodily function, but it's a primary precursor to hormone function, which means your sex hormones and your thyroid hormones. Thyroid is what controls metabolism. Okay, so what we want to make sure is the body always has a sufficient amount of vitamin D to make sure both of those functions are dialed in. Now, with that, vitamin D has also been the most chronically deficient vitamin I have seen in every single person's blood work. To date, for 15 years, I have never gotten one person's blood work back that had a sufficient amount of vitamin D. So that is a foundational supplement for everyone. Okay. Next is going to be magnesium. Magnesium is an essential mineral. It's going to be crucial for digestion and then calming down the nervous system. Okay. All of you guys are on your careers, you're crushing it, you're working hard, you're doing your things, which means your nervous system is honestly getting pretty taxed each day. This is normal, what it should do. But with that, we want to make sure we're giving the body as much support as possible to help calm down that central nervous system. Magnesium is going to help do that. Also, when it comes to digestion, magnesium is going to help calm down the digestive tract, which makes bowel movements, everything much easier, much more consistent. Everything's dialed in there. So it's going to be a big benefit. Now, when it comes to magnesium, if you are someone who is dealing with digestive issues, magnesium citrate is the one you should be going with. For everyone else, magnesium glycinate is the one you should be going with. So citrate for the booty and the belly, and is going to be for everything else. Okay. Omega-3 fish oils, we want to make sure it has EPA and DHA in it. This is going to be crucial for overall heart health. So it's really going to help improve the lipid profile. So all of your cholesterol values. It also does have a slight impact on some joint support as well. It can help increase the synovial fluid a little bit, but mainly for overall heart health. B complex is a blend of your B vitamins. Okay, B vitamins are solely responsible for energy production within the body. So when it comes to metabolic rate, when it comes to just our overall energy levels, mental clarity, actual energy levels, B vitamins are solely responsible for that. And again, these are going to get depleted through stress, lack of sleep, excess activity, being sick. All of these are going to deplete those B vitamins. So just like the vitamin D, we want to make sure we're supplementing with this so those B vitamins are always sufficient, energy levels, metabolism, everything like that stays dialed in. Last one is going to be a CoQ10. This is an enzyme our body already naturally produces. We don't have enough of it, and the B vitamins, the vitamin D3, the body depletes this fairly quickly. Now, the CoQ10 is basically how the body creates antioxidants for itself to detoxify. Again, we want to make sure we have sufficient levels of that CoQ10 so the antioxidant support is there and the body can detoxify itself as efficiently as possible. Again, these 5 supplements right here are crucial for everyone to take, and you should be taking these for the rest of your life. Highly recommend if you're not taking these, incorporate these. They're also very inexpensive. None of these should cost you more than maybe 15 bucks for the whole month. Again, they're very expensive or inexpensive and obviously crucial. Add those in. Now, yeah.
You explain why it's important to have K2, not D3 by itself, because I think that's important for the body to absorb that, right?
Yeah, dude, exactly. Great point. Yeah, vitamin D is vitamin D. The K2 is what tells the body what to do with that vitamin D. It helps with the absorption of it. If we take vitamin D alone, we're not going to absorb it all. We want to make sure it has a K2 attached to it so the body can actually absorb all of it. With that said, almost every vitamin D supplement you see on the market, if you look on the back of the label, it should have a K2 attached to it. Very rare that one that doesn't. But again, good point. That's what the K2 is for. It's going to help with the absorption of the vitamin D. All right, guys, your game plan. Here's how we're going to run through this. You guys will do these things daily, regardless of how you feel or what the scales say. And if you do that, results will come. Here's what's going to matter each day: tracking nutrition, hitting your macros, hitting your step goal, hitting those 5 activity sessions per week, and drinking your water. That's it. Don't let the endless amount of fitness content make you think it's more complicated than this. It's literally that simple: nutrition, macros, step goal, training, water. Boom. If you keep that consistent, I promise you, the results will come much faster than what most people even realize. Okay. Now, you were all in luck. I know I gave you a bunch of information, but because Blake is a badass and cares about you all, I will be doing all of the hard work and setup for each of you. So, everyone who wants to take a part of this challenge, you will let Blake know. He will give me your information, and I will get all of you guys onboarded and rolled in, and then we're going to be kicking the challenge off. Now, what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to give you all your personalized macros. So, macros for you specifically. I'm going to give you your starting step goal. I'm going to give you your water intake goal. And then I'm going to give you access to my app, which is going to give you all the tools you need to track workouts, track nutrition, track water, monitor all of this for the next 8 weeks. Again, my goal here, guys, is to make sure in these 8 weeks, you guys solidify the foundation and the habits that you can sustain for the rest of the year. Because if you guys master that in these first 8 weeks and you realize, hey, this is sustainable, I can do this, you guys are just going to stay in flow and keep that for the rest of the year. And I promise you, by the end of the year, you guys are going to be like a master of this fitness game. Okay. So here's how this challenge is going to work. All right. We're going to run an 8-week challenge starting on January 5th, which is next Monday. Okay. It's going to be a step goal challenge, a macro tracking challenge, and a workout completion challenge. Okay. There's going to be a live leaderboard in the app for everyone on the team who's taken a part of it. And this is not going to be about who loses the most weight. It's going to be about who executes the most consistently. However, whoever executes the most consistently is typically the one who makes the most progress. Here's how points are going to be earned. You will get points inside the app for tracking your nutrition daily. You will get points in the app for hitting your step goals. This is also where you can get more points. More steps you hit, more points you're going to get. If you're one of those who wants to be at the top of the leaderboard, that's going to be one of your big drivers there. Completing workouts will also give you points. And then staying consistent with all of those. Tracking nutrition, hitting the steps, hitting the workouts, those 3 things is what you're going to collect points for. Now, at the end of the challenge, at the end of those 8 weeks, I'm going to pull the winners. I'm going to pull a first place winner and a second place winner. First place winner is going to get 3 months of free coaching with me. Second place winner, I'm going to give a $200 supplement gift card to our supplement company, First Form. This way is a little bit of a reward for you guys for locking in and keeping it consistent. Remember, the reason I love doing these challenges, especially with teams like you guys, is a really good way to help people stay consistent. Because when you see the dude next to you or the lady next to you consistently putting effort and intention into this each day, it lights a fire under for you to actually do it yourself as well. And that is my goal behind all this. Sustainable habits you guys need, implement them, keep them consistent. By the end of the 8 weeks, you guys will be, oh, this was easy, sweet. I can maintain this. By the end of the year, you guys are going to be solid. You guys now have everything you need. No confusion, no extremes, no guessing, but none of this works without commitment. If you guys follow this blueprint consistently for the next 8 weeks, I can confidently say you will be a different person, physically, mentally, and professionally, guaranteed. And then if you maintain that for the course of 2026, you will have mastered this fitness. I promise you, if you guys master this piece, you will never battle with nutrition, training, any of that ever again. You guys can see my entire speech here was all about sustainability. The more sustainable you are, the more progress that comes. It's not a fancy nutrition plan. It's not a fancy training program. It's none of that. It's what can I stick to for the longest amount of time possible that works or that fits harmoniously with my life, and then we're golden. Okay? So open it up for a Q&A. If you guys have any questions around any of this, now is your chance to ask me, and let's dive into it.
What questions you guys have? Anybody questions?
What if you got a problem with eating, man? I eat once a day, man. So how should I budget those macros?
Yeah, eat just once a day, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What I recommend for people in that scenario is this. Put yourself into an intermittent fasting schedule, which basically means, if you don't know what that is, it gives you an eating window. Typically, the way this works is you only eat 1 p.m. and 8 p.m., and then you fast the rest of the time. And then what I recommended doing in that scenario is we still need to hit your macros. We still have to make sure we're fueling your body properly, but the frequency of meals isn't as important. So what I recommend doing is going to an intermittent fasting schedule and give yourself an eating window of between 1 p.m. and 8 p.m. And then what you do is give yourself 3 meals inside of that eating window that you enjoy that work within your macros, and then you're set up for success. And again, be strategic here. Do stuff, a little bit of protein powder, some fruits, things like that, smoothies. It's easy to put down. You can get a good 500-600 calories from that. But again, if you give yourself that eating window, one, you're going to be fasting for a longer period of time, so hunger cues will start to regulate. But then two, now we can simplify it, keep it down to 2 or 3 meals, make sure those meals have enough calories in them, and you'll be set up for success. On the other note of that as well, I promise you, the minute you start eating the right amount of food for your body, your hunger cues will come back. And you'll start to have these natural hunger cues where every 3-ish hours, you're like, oh shit, I'm a little hungry. I need a little bit of food. And that's what we want. We want healthy hunger cues. Everyone should be waking up hungry. You guys should be getting hungry every 3-ish to 4-ish hours. And if we're not, it means we have a little bit of an issue with metabolism. So for you, my man, intermittent fasting, break those macros into 3 meals in that eating window, and that'll be the most efficient approach. And again, utilize smoothies and stuff like that. Does that make sense?
And really quick, can you share them why it's so important to hit macros? That was something I struggled with you is I would underdo it by too much, which would harm me and my metabolism, right? That was super important lesson for me to learn. Can you share about that?
Yeah, the body is always going to adapt. When it comes to nutrition, training, anything, the way people yield progress is forcing the body to adapt to a new set point. So, for example, we eat 1,800 calories, and that put me in a deficit, and I'm eating 1,800 calories. After I eat that, again, everybody's different, but say call it 4 weeks. After 4 weeks, my body has now adapted to this new caloric intake. So, what that means is my body has now down regulated my metabolism because it knows it's not getting fed enough to be able to make sure it can survive, the survival mechanism. Okay. So, the body is now adapting, which means I'm eating 1,800 calories. I'm no longer losing weight. So, what do? We either bring calories down or expend more energy, but to keep it simple, we bring calories down. Now, the body is now forced to adapt to a new set point, then it's going to adapt again, drop it again. That's the phase. So the body is always trying to adapt. What ends up happening is if we are eating too little for too long, all you have done is just completely downregulated your metabolism. Your body goes, hey, I know I'm not getting fed enough. So therefore, I'm not going to expend a lot of energy. So it's not going to burn fat as efficiently. It's not going to be as optimal as it needs to be because it knows it's not getting fed enough. So with Blake, for example, that was one of his big issues. I was like, bro, we got to get more food in your system. Because again, when your body starts consuming more food, it goes, I'm getting fed, I'm happy, and it starts expending energy much more efficiently. So this is why body fat will come off quicker because again, now metabolic rate is going up. So remember, if we eat too little for too long, metabolic rate goes down. So again, we always want to make sure we're keeping it up. So it's crucial to make sure we're obviously not eating too much, but we're eating the right amount of nutrients for you specifically so we don't deal with that chronic downregulation and then we get to a point where the body's not losing any body fat. And you'll see this with, I love you ladies. I've worked with ladies for 10 years of my entire fitness journey. So I spent a lot of time with you guys. You guys are a perfect example of this. You will eat 1,200 calories for 5 years straight and wonder why you are not losing any body fat. That's because your body is so down regulated, it is not going to drop any body fat, even though it's consuming very minimal food. It is preserving everything because it's trying to protect itself. So in those scenarios, I can bring a girl from 1,200 calories up to 1,500 calories, and she'll drop 25 pounds like that. And that's because the body goes, hey, I'm getting more food. I'm going to expend more energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think I see a lot, I made a mistake. I've seen a lot of people do that too. They'll do too much. How much a deficit to healthy deficit? I know you'll kind of help out with some of that, but anybody that's kind of trying stuff on their own, how much is a healthy deficit in terms of weight loss and also calorie deficit?
Yeah. So typically, I make everything in a 300 calorie adjustment. So for those that are going to do it on your own or whatever, if we take that formula I gave you and it said goal body weight, take that out of the picture and do it for your current body weight. So if you're 180 pounds right now, 1,800 calories is technically your maintenance calories. We want to drop that by about 200 to 300 calories, and that's what creates your deficit. So we'd bring it from the 1,800 down to say 1,600. That would be a sufficient deficit. Now, again, this is where things can get a little complicated, is the body's now going to adapt to that 1,600 calories. So you might lose weight for 8 weeks. You might lose weight for 12 weeks. But eventually the body's going to stall and be like, okay, I'm not dropping any more weight because it's now adapted to that number. Very simple process. All we do is we just drop it another 200 to 300 calories. And if we complete that process, basically you guys will be able to lose all of your body fat over ultimately 2, maybe 3 adjustments. So again, think of a 2 to 300 calorie deficit, 300 calories more aggressive, 200 conservative. But again, we take maintenance, drop it by 200 calories, stay there until the body stops losing weight again. Once that happens, drop it another 200 calories, stay there until the body stops losing weight again. And typically by that point, you guys should have lost, most of your body fat. Does that make sense? The stuff is very, very powerful. No, that was the perfect recommendation. Start at zero point 0.5. Okay. So 0.5 mg, 1 time per week. If you see any information on people splitting up doses, no, don't do that. 1 dose per week, 0.5 mg a week. Stay there until you don't really feel it anymore. The first 3 to 4 doses, going to be okay, cool. The food noise went away. I'm not that hungry. I'm not eating as much. Eventually, you're going to notice that creep back a little bit. Typically, about every 4 weeks, we can go up 0.5 mg in dose. But the goal here is to use as little as possible to get the most out of it. So if you can stay on that 0.5 mg a week, weeks, stay there. But this is where you want to listen to yourself a little bit, understand how you feel. The main thing you're going to notice is the food noise goes away. You're not as hungry. Watch that, right? And make sure if you start noticing it creep up crazy, that means the body's adapted to that a little bit. And we should increase the dose a little bit more. But you have to make sure you don't go too high too quickly because we don't want to completely shut out food noise to where you don't eat all day. Got you guys. So anyone who wants to take part of the challenge, let Blake know what email you want to use. He will send your guys' name and email over to me. I will get all of you guys set up with a consultation so I can do your macros, water intake, all that stuff. And then I'll get you guys plugged into my app, and then I will send everyone out a full video breakdown on how the challenge works, how to utilize the app, how to track, basically everything you guys need. So on Monday, we can plan a hard start date, be off to the races. All right?
Awesome. Thanks so much, brother. Appreciate you.
You're welcome, guys. Happy New Year. Have a good one.
Thanks, man.